My name is Dave Walker. I'm 41 years old and work as a car mechanic for a well known car brand here in the US. I've been married to Megan, who is 40, for 20 years. We met in college. She works as an administrator at a hospital. We've had a long life together, lived in several apartments, bought a house, and taken countless vacations. Our relationship hasn't always been perfect, but until recently, it had felt stable. That feeling gradually changed about 6 months ago. Megan started pulling away. There were no big fights or dramatic breakups, just small signs that something wasn't right. She stopped showing interest in doing things together. If I suggested a Sunday outing, she'd roll her eyes. If I put my arm around her on the couch, she'd subtly push me aside. I convinced myself that it might be stress from work or just a temporary slump. But the signs grew more apparent. When I hugged her in the kitchen, it felt like she couldn't wait to leave, quickly slipping out of my embrace. If I tried to be spontaneous and suggested going out to eat, she'd decline, saying she was too tired. Even our conversations became short and awkward. I tried bringing it up gently, but she either brushed it off as stress or dismissed my concerns as me imagining things. After a while, she stopped wanting to have sex altogether. Sure, we'd gone through periods in the past with less intimacy, but this time it felt different. She rejected me every time I tried to initiate. The last time I brought it up seriously, she sighed deeply and said she didn't feel any desire anymore and didn't want to talk about it. I noticed the warning signs, of course, but I didn't want to believe she was cheating. I hoped it was more about depression or work-related stress. I tried asking how she was feeling, but she refused to elaborate. Things stagnated, but I thought, okay, we've been together for 20 years. All relationships go through rough patches. Then one day I noticed she had become unusually secretive with her phone. It wasn't that she used to stare at it for hours before, but back then, she'd leave it lying openly on the table. Now, it was always face down. If she went to the bathroom, she'd often take her phone with her. If she got a message, she'd glance at it and often move to another room. I couldn't help but notice the nervousness in her eyes when I was near her phone. One evening, we were sitting on the couch. I had left my phone in the bedroom, so I asked her, "Hey Megan, can I check something on your phone? I don't feel like getting up to grab mine." I reached for it before she even answered. Her reaction was instant. She snatched it away and clutched it to her chest as if I were trying to steal it. Her eyes darted nervously, like she was afraid I might have already seen something. Why, why do you need my phone?" she asked nervously. "Can't you just get your own?" I didn't respond because I didn't need to hear more. I realized she was hiding something. The next day, while she was out, I knew she had left her laptop on the table with her email open. I skimmed through her emails but found nothing suspicious. So I concluded her phone was at the center of it all. I thought about trying to unlock it while she was asleep, but she seemed to use facial recognition and I had no idea what her passcode was. Her awake eyes were required to access the phone. I felt a pit in my stomach, but I needed concrete evidence. I had heard about installing GPS trackers and microphones. It sounded crazy, but I felt desperate. So I went to an electronics store and bought a tiny GPS device and an equally small microphone, which I placed in her car. My reasoning was simple. If she was secretly meeting someone, she'd have to drive there. And if she talked in the car, I might hear something. The first week, I listened to the recordings every evening. Absolutely nothing suspicious. She chatted with her mom, discussed lunch breaks with a colleague, even called me once to ask if I could pick up some milk. I started doubting myself, thinking, what if I'm just being paranoid? But in the second week, I hit the jackpot. On a Friday afternoon, I heard her talking softly to someone. The sound was a bit muffled, but it was clear she was planning a meetup. She mentioned a conference that would run from Friday to Saturday and said she'd be home Sunday morning. She even mentioned the name of a hotel. I heard her say, "I'll see you at Modern Suites, same place as last time." She also mentioned lying to me, saying her job had a 2-day conference. My heart pounded uncontrollably as I listened. It was as if my worst suspicion had been confirmed. A part of me had hoped I was wrong, but now it was clear. She was cheating, or at least on the verge of it. We'd loved each other for 20 years, and now she was planning to spend a weekend with someone else at a hotel. I felt a deep anger and sadness that made it hard to breathe. I called my best friend Steven and asked to meet him at our favorite bar on Saturday. We settled into a booth in the back and ordered a few beers. Steven has known me since college and is one of the few people I can always count on. I told him the whole story, how Megan had pulled away, her behavior with her phone, the GPS, the microphone, and that I now had proof she was planning to spend a weekend with another man. Stephen looked as devastated as I felt. We talked for hours, mostly reminiscing about old memories to distract me from the pain, but we kept coming back to the topic. He asked if I wanted help with anything. Right. Do you want me to go with you to confront her, hire a private detective, anything? I shook my head. I don't know what to do yet. I just need to think. Thanks, though, brother. It got late. I might have drunk more than I should have, but I didn't want to go home. I dreaded seeing her. Eventually, Stephen drove me home and I went inside just after midnight. I didn't even go upstairs to the bedroom. I lay down on the couch. Sleeping next to Megan felt impossible now. When I woke up Sunday morning, I heard her already up and moving around in the kitchen. I reluctantly got up, feeling hungover and exhausted. Megan came into the living room, looking at me with a mix of concern and irritation. Why did you sleep down here? Did you get home late? It doesn't matter where I slept, I replied curtly. You seem distant, Dave. Is something wrong? I'm just tired, I muttered. I felt disgusted by her betrayal but tried to stay calm. You look angry. Can we talk? I'm in a rush, I lied. I'm meeting Stephen again. I started walking toward the hallway, but she followed. What do you mean? Are you going to be gone all day? I thought we could. No, I don't have time, I interrupted. I felt my anger boiling, but forced myself to leave. She called something like, I can cook something tonight. Are you eating at home? I ignored her question and closed the front door. I didn't know what to do, but I had to get away from her. Seeing her standing there pretending to be a normal wife made me furious. I went back to Stephen's house and told him I couldn't stand being in the house. We spent most of the day making a plan. I felt like my marriage was over, that I'd never trust her again. So we decided I'd start looking for a new apartment, hire a lawyer, and contact a realtor to sell the house. I had no intention of staying in a home that reminded me of her betrayal. That evening, I sent emails to a lawyer, a housing company, and a realtor. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with messages from her. Where are you? I'm worried. Please answer, Dave. I ignored them all. Late Sunday night, I returned home. I lay down on the couch, slept fitfully. On Monday morning, I woke up early and left just as she was coming downstairs. I didn't give her a chance to talk to me. I went to work and asked my boss for a week off. He's a good guy and didn't ask questions when I mumbled, personal reasons. Shortly after 9 a.m., I was at the housing company checking out available apartments. I wanted something on the other side of town, far from Megan, so the chances of running into her would be minimal. When I found a one-bedroom in a quiet area, I decided it would do. I signed the papers, paid the deposit, and paid the entire first year's rent up front with our joint account money. I figured she could foot half the bill when we divided our assets in the divorce. A petty part of me felt some satisfaction. It's her fault I have to move. She can help pay for it. Afterward, the lawyer called and said I could meet with them that same day. I went there and explained that I wanted an immediate divorce and the first set of papers by Thursday. I'll pay extra to get it done fast, I said. The lawyer raised an eyebrow and asked if I needed time to think. I shook my head. My marriage is dead. I can't take anymore. I feel physically ill being in the same house as her. Next, the realtor called me back. We scheduled an appointment for the next day at 11 a.m. to evaluate the house and take pictures. I told them I wanted the listing up by Monday. They asked if my wife would be involved, and I lied, saying she wasn't handling this part. In reality, I didn't want her to have any idea about my plans. When I came home Monday evening, I went straight to the shower to wash away the workday and all the stress. Megan stood outside the bathroom door, asking where I'd been. I said I worked late and then grabbed a beer with Stephen. It was a lie, but I couldn't be bothered to give her real answers. I went to the guest room to avoid sleeping next to her. Of course, she came knocking a while later, asking, Why aren't you sleeping in our bedroom? I feel a little sick. I lied. Want to stay near the bathroom in case I throw up. She probably didn't believe me, but what could she say? Tuesday morning came and I snuck out before she woke up. I went straight to a big furniture store. I needed a bed, a couch, kitchenware, towels, everything for the new apartment. I also paid for delivery and assembly to avoid moving things myself. Then I spent most of the day driving stuff to the apartment. Setting up a place that would soon be my new home gave me a strange sense of relief, even though I still felt a deep sadness that it had come to this. Around 11 a.m., I met the realtor at the house. They took pictures, gave an estimate, and said they could post the listing on Monday. Perfect, I thought. By then, Megan would hopefully have the divorce papers. I wanted to surprise her with everything all at once. Harsh? Yes, but she had broken my heart. Tuesday night, I came home late again, around 10 p.m. I knew she'd be awake, but I didn't want to talk about anything. I muttered that I was tired. She tried to talk. Dave, can't we? I'm going to sleep. I cut her off and went to the guest room. I heard her sigh. When she went to bed, I snuck out to her car, retrieved the recording device, and sat in the kitchen to listen. She had talked to someone that evening. I heard her say I was acting strange and that she was afraid I might be having an affair. I couldn't help but smirk to myself. People project their own behavior, I thought. The irony of her thinking I was cheating was almost laughable. At the same time, a wave of pain shot through me. She lied and betrayed me, yet she thought I was the guilty one. Wednesday and Thursday followed the same pattern. I got up early, left before she woke up, took care of more things for the apartment, and stayed away from the house as long as possible. On Thursday afternoon, the lawyer called and said the papers were ready to sign. I signed everything without hesitation. All that remained was delivering them to her. That night, I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a while, I felt an emotional crash. I'd been so focused on executing all the logistics of the divorce that I hadn't had time to process my feelings. Now it all hit me at once. The thought of Megan lying in our shared bedroom and the fact that she would soon be out of my life made me tremble. I pictured her with another man, laughing and kissing. I felt physically sick. I staggered into the bathroom and threw up. Friday morning, she got up earlier than usual. I stayed in the guest room until I heard her go downstairs. She called out to me, "Dave, you know I'm leaving for the work conference today. I'll be back on Sunday, okay?" I forced myself to sound neutral. Okay. I tried to keep my composure as she gathered her things. Part of me wanted to scream that I knew exactly what she was doing, but I stayed silent. She left around 8 a.m. As soon as she left the house, I called the Modern Suites Hotel, where she and the other man would be staying. I said I was her secretary and needed to confirm a booking for a guest meeting her for dinner. The receptionist was hesitant at first, but helpful enough to give me the room number, 1025 on the 10th floor. Thank you. Check-in wasn't until 1 p.m., so I arrived at the hotel around 11:30 a.m. and sat discreetly in the lobby. I felt nauseous with nerves, but kept hidden behind a newspaper. At 1:20 p.m., Megan walked in, arm in arm with a man. He had his arm around her waist. I saw her smile and kiss him before they approached the reception desk. Watching this took the air out of me. The knot in my stomach felt like a hard lump. How could she, after 20 years with me, smile like that at another man? I let them check in peacefully. I waited about 10 minutes. Then I took the elevator to the 10th floor, walked toward room 1025. Just as I stood outside, I heard Megan's moans through the door. Loud, intense. She never sounded like that with me. I heard her beg him for more, for harder. I didn't need to hear more. I knocked hard on the door. The moaning stopped immediately. I banged again and again. Finally, a half-naked man with messy hair opened the door. He looked irritated until he realized who I was, and I saw the color drain from his face. I handed him the thick envelope containing the divorce papers. "Give these to my wife. Tell her she doesn't need to come home on Sunday. She's single now. You can screw her all you want without worrying about getting caught." I turned on my heel and walked briskly away. Behind me, I heard Megan scream, not coherent words, just panicked yelling. I took the elevator down. Before I reached the lobby, my phone rang. Her number popped up. I muted the sound and ignored the calls. Once I was downstairs, I went to the men's restroom and vomited again. My body shook with adrenaline, anger, sorrow, despair. Then I called Steven. He told me to come to his place. I drove there, turned off my phone, and collapsed on his guest bed. I slept for 14 hours straight and woke up sometime around 3 a.m. When I turned my phone back on, there were over 200 texts and around 50 missed calls from Megan. I read a few of the texts. It was the same old excuses. I felt lonely. It hasn't been going on for long. It meant nothing. I just needed some excitement. I was going to tell you. Mostly, I felt disgusted. I didn't respond to any of them. The rest of the night, I lay awake, thinking about my life and my future. I felt an intense fear of loneliness, But at the same time, I knew that if I forgave her, I would despise myself. I was convinced that I had no choice but to go through with the divorce. Saturday passed without me making any direct decisions about how to handle Megan. We had a brief text conversation where I mostly asked questions. Why did you do it? She answered with words like excitement and feeling sexy. How long has it been going on? She claimed 3 months, but I knew her behavior had changed more than 6 months ago. She refused to admit it had been longer. Have you been in our house? She curtly replied, no. I didn't even bother asking for more details. I didn't want to know. Sunday came, and I still refused to speak to her on the phone. I didn't go home. Instead, I told her I'd be staying at Stevens for a while. On Monday, the realtor listed our house for sale. I sent Megan the link. She was furious and called me, but I didn't answer. She texted, how can you do this? We can't sell the house. I replied that I wasn't buying her out and she couldn't afford to buy me out, so the house was going on the market. End of story. The following week, she tried to get me to come home, but I refused. I couldn't even bring myself to approach the house. The thought of seeing her made me nauseous. I was afraid I'd lose control and either break down or become even angrier. I made a deal with her via text. If she agreed to a quick divorce, I wouldn't tell our family and friends the full story of what had happened. I suggested we simply say we'd been having problems for a long time and mutually decided to separate. She agreed to the terms and seemed desperate to get everything over with quickly. The divorce went through fairly swiftly. She occasionally tried to persuade me to come home and talk things through, but I refused. We didn't see each other face to face until I went to collect my belongings. My share of the furniture, clothes, personal items. I brought Stephen with me. She looked miserable, red-eyed, hollow-cheeked. She asked me to step aside so we could talk privately, but I said no. I didn't want to subject myself to her manipulation. She started crying. I continued packing in silence. She also tried suggesting that we maybe start dating again once everything calms down. I flatly declined. Not in a million years. A few weeks later, when everything was finalized and the divorce was official, I decided to go against our agreement. I told both my family and hers exactly what she had done. I gave all the details, from the GPS and microphone to the hotel room. I no longer felt the need to protect her. Sure, it was a revenge move, but I didn't care. She called me in anger. How the hell could you do this to me? You promised. I did the same thing you did, I replied. You promised to be faithful when we got married? Then you broke that promise. She screamed, saying she couldn't understand how I could be so cruel. I reminded her how I felt when I stood outside that hotel room and heard her beg another man to screw her. Then I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. I blocked her everywhere. Now some time has passed, and I have no idea what's become of her. I don't want to know. I've heard rumors through mutual acquaintances that she's not doing well. But honestly, as long as I don't have to see or hear from her, I feel relieved. I've moved into my apartment, sold the house, and split the money with her. I lost 20 years of my life, but I refuse to lose my peace of mind. The nights are sometimes tough. When I think about how she kissed that man, how she lied to me and said she was at a conference, but every time, I remind myself I made the right decision. If I had ever forgiven her, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself. The whole story feels surreal, but I'm trying to move forward. People say time heals all wounds. I don't know if that's true, but I hope it at least dulls the pain. I deserve to be with someone who won't deceive me, someone who isn't willing to throw away 20 years of life together for a fleeting affair. Right now, I'm not ready for a new relationship. The wound is too fresh. But maybe one day I'll be able to trust someone again. The old me would never have imagined placing a GPS and microphone in my wife's car or waiting outside a hotel room where she was with another man. But here I am, a bitter man who has seen infidelity up close. Regardless, I'm free now, free from her lies and betrayal. That freedom, above all, is priceless. And that's all I have the strength to share. I just want to put this behind me, breathe freely, and move on. If Megan had asked me a year ago if I thought we'd end up here, I would have said, not in a million years. But sometimes people change, and sometimes love dies. That's what happened to us. Maybe we could have saved the relationship if she'd been honest. If we'd gone to therapy, who knows? But once trust is broken, there's no easy way back.
That's my advice to anyone in the same situation. Once the evidence is there, end it and move on. You can never find happiness in a relationship where one party is dishonest.
If you liked this story, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It helps a lot, and you won't miss out on any future stories. Take care and live your best life.